The Haber Group, humanizing technology, creating lifelong fans. Please welcome Dwain Daniels, who leads customer success at Haber Group, in conversation with AI enthusiast and technologist Shoaib Laher as they discuss an exciting upcoming event.
Today we're joined by Dwain Daniels. Dwain is part of the leadership team at the Haber Group. We'll be chatting to Dwain, just as we did with Charlie in the last episode. Dwain's going to tell us a little bit about himself, his history with Haber Group, what his typical week looks like. But most importantly, Dwain is going to tell us about something exciting coming up. Dwain, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for having me. As Shoaib said, I've been here. I'm at Haber Group. I've been here for a long time. I've been here 14 years. I started here as a dispatcher / service manager. I did that for probably about 12 years. And then Charlie had an idea of just maybe transitioning over to customer success because we felt like we needed some account management, some more hand-holding with the clients, making sure things were moving in a good direction. So I slid over to that direction, and I think it's been a really good transition. I'm very customer service driven. I'm service driven. Even as a service manager, I was the same way, but I like this part of it more because I don't have to deal with the personalities of the techs.
And when you transitioned to that customer service role, what was the biggest change for you in the way your week worked? I'm assuming more FaceTime with the customers. What did it feel like, and what appeals to you most about it now?
It was hard. I'm not going to say it was easy. It was hard in the sense because I've always done service management. I've always managed the day-to-day with the techs, always knew what was going on that side of the ball, getting things scheduled, making sure clients were heard. So the biggest transition and change was allowing the space to listen to the clients and not be in control of the schedule, right? Not being in control of what tech is looking at what, right? It's just really being a pure advocate for the client, being in front of them, being a face for them. And, when they need someone to be an advocate, I think sometimes what we get confused is that just because you work for the company, you can't be an advocate for the client, right? I think for me, it's always client first, right? Then figure out what's happening on the service side, and then we connect together. And when the client is not right, I have no problem letting them know, like, hey, you didn't do right here, right? This is how we get better. So for me, that transition was more like, okay, less worrying about the day-to-day of the operations side of service and more, how do I make the experience for our clients better?
So you've been with Haber in the space over a decade, with Haber in the industry for over 2 decades. What do you think has changed the most, let's say in the last 18 to 24 months?
18 and 24 months? What? AI, right? That has been the biggest change, right? Like everything, you got to get on board with it. That's just what it is. Like, and if you don't, it's one of those things that I get why there's trepidation. I truly do, as someone that is a service person, that is in service, why people think it's going to hurt in some areas. But that was the biggest shift for me. It's been a really good thing for me to use, a tool to utilize. And I don't want to oversaturate the word AI on this talk, but I just want people to understand the administrative part of it doesn't go away for administrators, right? It makes an administrator that is worried about AI, their job actually easier and better and makes them more efficient. So to me, that's been really the biggest shift. Like, how do I integrate that into my day-to-day to get clients more information?
And as Haber, we seem to have carved out a bit of a niche. A large subset of the client base comes from the AEC world, architectural engineering and construction. And you've touched on AI. So let's explore that intersection between AEC and AI. What are the AEC firms that you deal with, your clients on a day-to-day basis, bringing to you now that they weren't 2 years ago?
I would say more, how are they using it for, at first, some people were talking more about like sketching and drawing, like how do we use it for that? But then I think what I'm finding out, at least from a couple that I've talked to, it's not as efficient yet on that side. So what I've tried to lean into with them is really the administrative part, for like I just talked about a couple minutes ago, right? What are the parts of your day that are being sucked out on the administrative side when it comes to getting something done, right? And using it for architecture, right? And it might be challenging your thought theory on what you're going to build, right? So people think about, okay, they has to develop the drawing for me. No, but it can help develop the concept. So you might have a concept that you say, I want this furniture here, this here, I want this to lay out like this. And you talk to the AI and you give it those specifications, and it might say, no, it can't work because of X. So now the trial and error part of what you're going to do shrinks, where now you're not having to draw this out or sketch it out. It's telling you, hey, based on this number footage, or, whatever you're going to place it is just not going to work. Right. So I think that's what leaning more into that with them, because I think with the drawing part, it's still, not where it needs to be yet anyway.
And are conversations coming to you around operational efficiency? I've had several conversations around AI in various parts of the world, as you know. And Microsoft, along with all the other top vendors, kind of forecasted, looked into their magic crystal ball and talked about agents or agentic AI. And they estimate that for every person in a business, there'll be 12 agents supporting their job. And when I say that to people, they go, what are you talking about? And the example I always give them is, think of Outlook, your mailbox. How much time do you spend in there a day? A mailbox agent would be an agent that manages your mailbox. It would read your emails, prioritize your emails, potentially draft up responses, just run them by you, and save you the time that you spend in your mailbox on a daily basis. I mean, are those conversations being brought to you to you and to the team at Haber from the client side? Do we need to have more conversations around those? I think there's not a hell of a lot of awareness in what the direction of travel with regards to AI is. And I think that's just because outside a select few, maybe at Anthropic and OpenAI, kind of know what the end game is. People talk about super intelligence and neural nets that have trillions of parameters. But I think from a client perspective, there's got to be an understanding on what this actually does for your business. And I mean, are those type of conversations happening? I'm guessing maybe at the start of it, but is it something we need to push forward with the client base?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I've kind of leaned into that with the administrative part, because I think people sometimes get caught up on what the big picture is, right? Or what the end game is, like you mentioned, but you have to start from somewhere, right? So to me, it's okay. Let's start at the things that are making your day bog down, right? Not the big things, but the small things that are making your day bog down, right? So if you start small, right? And I always use this thing of the 1%, right? Of the 1%, right? If you do use 1% of AI to shrink your day, right? Of the clutter, what would that do for you for the end game as far as creating the next proposal, right? Or getting something out the door a little bit quicker, right? That's the part of the efficiency that we need to look at and use, because to me, if you're always looking at the big giant picture, it feels harder to get there, right? Because it's AI is such this big thing, right? That everyone's talking about. But if you just start from like, okay, what does my day look like today? What would I like removed from my day on an administrative level? Okay. Yeah, that would be very, very helpful, right? Okay, who's using what? Like, let's go to that a little bit, governance a little bit, right? So who's using AI in our company as well? So start from the smallest things. Who's using it? How can I make my day a little bit more efficient? Right? And then baby steps and take it from there.
And in your opinion, the conversation and the investment around AI, there's two things, right? Is it a growth conversation? Should people be using AI to grow their businesses? I think potentially yes.
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel it's more of a keeping the lights on conversation? Like if you do not adopt AI in a governed, manageable fashion, I've said some wild words around this. I've said to businesses, if you don't adopt it, like inside 5 years, you will not have a business. And the example I always give is, think of the guy with the horse and cart. When Henry Ford comes along, right? Henry Ford's selling cars, and he goes, "I'm good with my horse and cart." And if his business was transporting hay or whatever it is, he was out of business inside 5 years. So, yes, it's a growth conversation, but what's your take on it actually being a keeping the lights on conversation?
Yeah, it's very important. I think so, right? And I believe that because for the things that you just said. Like you have to continue to elevate yourself, right? You can't be stagnant in a world that's continuing to grow. It's a continuing moving. Everyone's, and if you're not doing it, your competitor is. And what I don't want people to feel like is that your whole world has to be AI. No, it doesn't have to be that, but there has to be a small section of your world that adopts AI and what it can do for your business. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying adopt something that's going to work for your business, not because everyone else has it, and they're doing this one. You might be Claude. One would be a ChatGPT person. Someone might be a co-pilot person, right? It doesn't matter what you adopt at this moment, but adopt something and get used to the terminology, get used to prompting, get used to the conversations around it. So you're not unfamiliar. Because I use this example, like you use the cart and the horse. I use this example of two people trying to get a proposal out the door, right? We're both going to for the same client. And if I have AI helping me getting my stuff together on the administrative end and you're behind and I get that out the door and it looks great, pricing great, everything else, you might not get that opportunity. It's gone. I've got it out before you did, done. Right. So I think just adopting it and using it in ways that benefit your business is not going to hurt you. Don't think of it as this, I got to change everything I do, but think about how do I adopt into my business?
And you mentioned a couple of names there, like Claude, Copilot, ChatGPT. None of these are cheap. Copilot licenses are not cheap. OpenAI enterprise licenses or business licenses are not cheap or cost efficient. How would businesses know what the right tool is for them?
That's a good question, man. Some of it is, I think, is trial and error, right? I think you got to at least adopt somebody on that team that's going to try it and really dive into it. The options are out there. But before you even dive into the options, I think you have to look at yourself internally and see, what do you need? Where are the places are we inefficient, right? And I think too many people jump to AI, but don't know what they need. They're just jumping in and typing stuff in. But start with what you need. You're still in the race. If you at least do that and say, hey, okay, this is our day to day. Okay, we're sucking 4 hours in administrative tasks doing this. What AI could help with this? Would it be Claude? Would it be ChatGPT? Start there and then have someone be the person to have the trial and error. And I would argue, like, if you say that it's costly, which it is, right? How much more is it for that employee to spend 8 more hours on a project that it would have saved him 4 hours? So you got to weigh those things. So to me, you got to jump in, but get someone that's not going to waste your time on it. Like, get someone that's really interested in it, right? Like in the tech part of it and to talk about it and then build from there.
So you touched on something really important there. You said something like get yourself in the race. And I think that's what it is. There's a race between businesses that adopt and don't adopt. And the conversations around adoption, what does that look like? Exactly what we're discussing. Which platform do I need? How much do I spend? My gut tells me those questions are not happening enough, certainly at the small to medium business level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those businesses stand the most to gain because it allows them to compete with businesses much bigger. So that neatly takes us on to something very exciting. There's an event coming up, isn't there?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Let's start on the 2 words we used to kind of introduce this event. Already behind.
Already behind. Yes.
All right. Tell us a little bit about this event. What is it about?
First thing I will say, it is not a sales pitch. It is not selling anything. Not at all. I always tell all of my clients, if you ever call me a salesperson, don't talk to me ever again because I'm not a salesperson. What it is really, it's bringing like-minded people together to talk technology, to talk business strategies, like things that affect their day-to-day, right? And how do we help each other in this community, right? Because the last thing I wanted was another sales pitch for anybody. The last thing I wanted was people to feel like, oh my God, here we go. This is what it is. No, this is about human connection, talking, sharing challenges. And I think the best way to do that is get like-minded people in the industry that might be going through something that you are going through, that maybe they have a fix for that you haven't, come up with yet.
So what does this event look like? Who's attending? How do people get into this event? Is it open to the general public? So if I run a bar in Midtown, is this the right event for me? Or is there specific demographic that should be attending this event?
Absolutely. It's AEC space, architectural space is what we lean into, is what we love. Our owner, Charlie Haber, is a former architect. He will tell you in his own admission, not a great architect. This is why he went over to doing computers. But this is what he's doing. He's doing it well. And it's not something that's going to be out in the bar. This is an invite-only event. This is something that we really wanted to make sure it wasn't salesy. We didn't want everybody in the world here, right? We wanted to limit the capacity of people here. We've selected people that we want to be here. And I think that's important. It's a very exclusive event. And it's something we plan to do every year. So if you don't get on this year, don't be disappointed. Just know it's coming back next year as well. But that's the space we're in right now.
Okay, so we're talking about principals, owners, CFOs, CEOs of AEC companies coming together, having a bit of a chat on technology, AI, understanding each other's pain, challenges. I can see that being a valuable event. Is that why we've chosen to do an event as opposed to just running an AI webinar or something like that?
Yes, correct. Like the other part was like connected to sales, right? I always think sales, and sometimes webinars are equated to sales because you're usually buying a product, right? So I have a webinar, everyone comes on, the first thing they want to think about, okay, what is he trying to sell me? So no, we wanted it to be in person. We wanted it to be personal. We wanted to have personal connection. We wanted to have conversations in front of people. We want people to have food and some drinks, right? And have a good time, right? Because it's not about us selling you anything. It's about the connection, the human connection, and how can we help each other get further with this AI race and also within our business, right? The challenges that you're facing in this space.
So it's more like a AEC networking event for principals, owners with some good food and booze.
All right. Right. What's wrong with that, right? Who turns down good food, booze, and good conversation? Come on. And so it should be nice. We have backup contingencies if it rains for some reason. So we're set there. Should be a good time with good people.
When is this taking place?
This is September 17th. We made it on a Thursday on purpose because we know Fridays is usually difficult for people. They're ready to run out the door. Thursdays is usually that nice day where, the balance of, staying a little bit late and hanging out.
And this is not happening at lunchtime or something silly like that.
So right? Not taking away from your business. Is after work starts at 6. I believe we end at 8:30. So it's not a long, drawn out event. It's something just for us to get in the space, have some conversation and have some good food and some drinks and call it a night.
Man, I feel like I'm missing out. Almost feel like
you
I
are.
need to jump onto a plane and get over to New York, right?
Yeah, you are.
Who will be there from the Haber team?
Myself, Marinella will be out there as well, who is our accountant, bookkeeping, everything. She does everything for us. She's amazing. And of course, the owner, Charlie Haber, who will give you guys a couple words while he's there. And again, we're not going to saturate your evening with any additional like sales or anything like that. It's just really conversation, honestly.
Right. Let's start to wrap up. If I'm an owner, principal, chief designer at an architectural firm, design firm, I'm watching this right now and I'm thinking, yeah, we're doing all right. I think we're keeping up. What would you say to me, or what am I likely to take away from the event that night?
It's a good question. I think at the end of the day, right, even when you're keeping up, I always use this analogy of that, where you're chasing perfection, knowing that you're never going to get it. So even if you think you are where you're supposed to be today, you're still chasing that end game because the technology is not stopping. So you always have to be in the mix of people that are doing the things, that are talking strategies, that are listening to AI and adopting AI, because the beauty of what having a bunch of people in the room that are like-minded is that conversation strikes ideas. So sometimes it might be you guys get together and like, man, I didn't even think about that. Let's produce this together. Right. Or there might be, hey, I just had this challenge here with this client and this happened. Oh, yeah, I just went through this 2 weeks ago. Let me tell you how I got through it. That's invaluable. That's not something that happens on a webinar. Only way that happens is through real connection with people that are having good conversations, that are open to sharing their challenges. So I think any owner, any principal that thinks they have it, you don't. Right. Because we're always already behind, because something right now, as you and I speak, someone is developing something. We're behind. And it's not a knock on anybody. It's more of we have to keep chasing that. We have to, because the minute we stop and think we've made it, There's someone 10 steps ahead already making the next thing, and you're trying to figure out, man, how did I get behind on this? I didn't even know this was out yet. So you only find that information out is if you're around other people that are doing things that you're not doing.
Right. I'm going to switch gears here before we wrap it up. I've heard you often be referred to as Pastor Daniels.
Yes, sir.
What is the deal with Pastor Daniels?
So the deal is, I've always been a good listener. I care about people. I lead with service. I lead with empathy and love. And whenever I speak with people, it comes from a real place of just trying to get them to be okay, right? If they're going through something, let people understand that I listen and I care about the people I work with. I care about my clients. So the Pastor Daniels thing came because people usually come to me for some type of counseling or just anything, just a day-to-day. I always check on people because I feel like, part of having a productive and really great staff in business is making sure the people that work with you are in a great space as well. And if they're in a great space and they're working well and they feel good about themselves, that translates on how they treat the clients and how they show up for our clients. So that's how that started.
Loving it. I'm loving it, man. And you do a podcast as well, right?
I do. Leave a Better podcast with Dwain Daniels. The whole concept is leaving places, spaces, and people better than how you found them. And that's super important to me. That's how I live my life. That's how I've raised my children to be. And that's the premise behind it.
Yeah, that's that Pastor Daniel stuff we're talking about. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an amazing chat. I'm going to bring up our information about the event. So that's a little bit about the event. Already Behind is what we are calling it. The invitations have already gone out to a curated list of people within the AEC world in New York. But if you feel you are in that space and you would benefit from this event, do let us know. Like Dwain said, if we can't fit you in on this one, we'll definitely do it on the next. And till we speak again, goodbye.